Hey everyone, me again. So I really felt like filming a kind of festive makeup tutorial for you guys, and I put up a poll on the YouTube community thing, you know, the one that everyone keeps forgetting is there, and I asked what kind of look you guys wanted to see, and to my surprise, nearly half of you voted for a kind of cool toned festive look. So I've done my best to do that for you today. So it's a very mauve kind of look. It's got all the usual pink tones that I've really been loving over the past few months, with this addition of gold glitter eyeliner, which is basically the secret to making any look a bit more festive. Also, when I started filming, there was still light outside, so the lighting is completely different. Sorry. So I've come a little bit closer because I thought we'd start with my eyes and my eyebrows today. That's just something I've kind of been doing a lot recently over winter while my skin's been kind of going insane. So I put all my skincare, my moisturiser and stuff like that on, and then I kind of fill in my eyebrows and do my eyes just while that's sinking in, and that just makes the base a bit easier to apply later on. So let's go in with some eyebrows. I've got the NYX Micro Brow Pencil in taupe. Also, you've probably noticed this, but yes, my background is different. In one of my moments of wisdom, I decided the day before yesterday to start moving a load of furniture around, forgetting of course that it's right before Christmas and I've just got boxes and boxes and boxes all over the place, and that there's just a lot more clutter around than there'd usually be, making the process about 10 times more difficult than it would usually be. So yeah, probably not one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I want my brows to be a little bit more bold, so I'm going to go in with some brow pomade. This is by Revolution and the shade is Blonde, and I'm using this brush from Primark. It feels a little bit stiff because it's so cold at the moment, so I'm just rubbing it on the lid like that, and that just warms up the product a little bit. And then I'm trying to use a very light hand just to add a little bit more definition and a few extra hairs. The other good thing about doing your eyebrows first is that if you're like me and you just suck at makeup, it's really easy to clean them up this way. So I've just got some micellar water on a little cotton bud, and then I can just like smooth out all the edges. I don't really need to set my eyebrows because I don't have like massive wild eyebrows that just fly around during the day, but I kind of like to do it anyway. I'm just using this clear brow gel from MUA. If you've watched any of my previous tutorials, you'll know that I like to do a lot of unnecessary and extra steps, and this is definitely one of them. I've actually been using 2 eyeshadow primers recently, which I know is a bit much. I think just because I have hooded eyelids and my eyeshadow tends to disappear quite quickly. For me, when I'm making the effort to put eyeshadow on in the first place, I want to do everything I can to make sure it actually stays around. So obviously, if you are recreating this look, you do not have to do this, but it's something that I like to do. So first I'm going to go in with the AOA Perfect Eye Primer. This is, I don't know the shade name of it, but this is the shimmery one. And then I'm just going to kind of plop that on and then just blending it in. When I watch other makeup tutorials nowadays, I don't really see people using eye primers like this anymore, but like the concealer thing just doesn't work for me. But just to cover up the veins and even out the redness a little bit, I'm going to go in with the Maybelline Colour Tattoo. This is the shade Creme de Nude. I use this quite a lot on my channel. I'm just going to use my finger for this as well. I'm sorry that the lighting is going a bit in and out, by the way. This is probably the first time in about a month, maybe longer, that I've been able to use natural lighting. I've kind of been filming in the evening just using artificial lighting for weeks and weeks now. But yeah, I actually have a little bit of daylight left today, so I did want to use it. That being said though, whenever I'm watching someone else's video and they're using natural lighting and it moves around a bit, I don't really mind. In fact, a lot of the time I probably don't really notice, so I don't know why I'm worrying so much about it that I feel the need to point it out. I think it's just part of my perfectionist personality trait, which I've really been struggling with a lot recently. The eyeshadow palette I'm using today is this one by Revolution. This is the Iconic Free palette. I'm just going to start out with this pale matte shade at the end to set all my primer in place. But going back to the perfectionism thing, I kind of realised that I spend a lot of time feeling like nothing I do is good enough, and I'd really like that to change next year. I'd really like to be a bit kinder to myself, to allow myself to not be perfect, especially in like my creative projects like this one. Next I'm taking a fluffy crease brush and I'm going into the 4th shade in the palette, which is a nice matte mauve colour. feel like this first shade is probably just going to go all over the lid and up past the crease as well. I'm trying to be really gentle with this first colour and just make sure that everything's nicely fused out, and yeah, that there's nothing too harsh going on, because the eyeliner is going to be quite harsh. I am just building up that same shade with the same brush just on the outer parts of my eye, just to make it a bit more intense where I want a bit of extra definition. Next I'm going to go in with the slightly darker matte mauve shade in the palette, and I'm just going to create even more definition with this. So that is going right in the crease and just right on the outside of my lid as well. And I'm just taking the larger brush that I was using earlier, and I'm just using that to very lightly go over that deeper shade and just blend everything together. To be honest, I could probably get away without doing this, as the shades aren't that different, but like, I just know that if I have a huge patch of unblended eyeshadow somewhere, it's gonna kind of annoy me when I look back and edit this. And then I'm taking the e.l.f. Creamy Eyeliner in Coffee, and I'm just going to line my eyes using this. And even though it's quite creamy, I'm still doing this, just rubbing the product onto the lid. That just kind of makes sure that I don't get too much on the brush. I would have probably preferred a black eyeliner, but I don't have one, so this will have to do. And as you can see, I'm just starting out with the smallest eyeliner flick that I can possibly do, because I have hooded eyes and I don't really have a massive amount of lid space. Anyway, that's one eyeliner done. I'm just going to do the other one off camera because it's really hard to do this while I'm filming, but I'll be right back. Okay, so I've just finished it off camera. I brought it in all the way across my eye instead of just on the outside, and I've also done a bit of tight lining as well. It's still not perfect, but it doesn't really need to be because I'm going over the top of it, creating a whole new line anyway with the glitter. So this is the Technic Glitter Liquid Eyeshadow in the shade Copper. I got this from Fragrance Direct. I think it was about £3 or so. I'm sure you can find this on eBay and Amazon and places like that as well. I'm just getting it on the back of my hand, and then I'm going to apply it to the lid using a really fine brush. So this is actually a nail art brush. I got a pack of these for like £1 from Quality Save. So yeah, just something along these kind of lines. So I'm just dumping it in the product and then kind of smoothing it out on the back of my hand. Make sure I don't get a clump of the eyeshadow again. And I might go a bit quiet for this because I've never done this on my eyes before, so I need to concentrate. For mascara, I'm using the Maybelline Lash Sensational, as always, in Intense Black. So I think I'm going to add some eyelashes as well, and I'm going to use these ones that I got from eBay. They're quite long, so I might trim them a bit. I might even cut them in half and just have the outer corners. Okay, I think we can leave it there for the eyes. So I'm going to start the base now, and first I'm just going in with some primer. This is the Nivea one. This is the Daily Essentials Express Primer. I've really been liking this at the moment. My skin has been really dry, but it's also been super textured as well. And I find that when I go for illuminating primers, it just kind of emphasizes all the pores on my skin. So I've been using this just to get that hydration, but without the glow. And then for foundation, I'm going to use the Rimmel Match Perfection foundation. So you might remember I reviewed this ages ago, and I actually used a shade 10 Light Porcelain, but they've brought out a new shade. So it's not actually any paler than the other one, but it is a different undertone. It's much warmer. And for me, that's a lot easier to work with. I find that it just conceals my redness a lot better if the foundation has a more yellow tone to it. And also my skin does have a little bit of a yellow undertone as well. I wouldn't call it warm, but yeah, it's definitely not cool toned either. My skin's been looking really rough at the moment. It's really not coping with the change of weather at all. So it's been incredibly blotchy. But I've also had some breakouts as well, as you can see on my chin. I'm also going to put a little bit of this down my neck as well. This has kind of evened things out, but it's definitely not completely full coverage. A lot of my redness is still visible. So I think I'm going to go over it with something a little bit more intense in just a moment. But I still really like this foundation just as like a starting point, just because it gets the tone a little bit more even, and I like the kind of pore blurring effect that it has as well. Very handy in winter when I've got a load of skin texture. So next I'm going to take the Revolution Conceal and Define foundation. This is completely different to the foundation that I just used, but I'm just going to dot this in the areas where my skin is still looking a little bit flushed, which is just here. But I just really like putting thin layers of products on. The finish of this foundation is definitely a bit more matte, but I'm kind of into it. I just feel like if I keep building up dewy foundations, then my face just looks greasy and a bit sweaty. Whereas doing it this way, I get a bit of a glow from the Rimmel foundation, but then I can still get a bit more coverage from Revolution. I'm saying all this like I actually know what I'm talking about. I definitely don't. I'm just making it up as I go along. And if this turns out well, then it's a complete fluke. And as I build up the foundation, I'm going over it with a damp makeup sponge as well. That just stops everything from looking too cakey. This one is from eBay, and in all honesty, it feels a bit like punching myself in the face with a slightly damp pebble. Even with all that foundation on, I'm still going to need a little bit of concealer because it's winter and my skin has just gone to shit. So the first concealer I'm taking is from Primark. This is their My Perfect Colour Concealer in Porcelain. I love this under my eyes and on areas of redness. And I just like to apply this using a different nail art brush. That just stops me from going overboard. And then to cover up any remaining blemishes, I'm going to be using the Revolution Conceal and Define in C1. I know the lighting has just changed again, but it's completely pitch black outside now, so I had to kind of improvise. Anyway, I hope this is okay. But now I'm just going to set and sculpt my face with the Revolution Pro HD Powder Contour Palette. I'm just going to take the shade here, this very battered, well-used, well-loved shade, and I'm just going to set the areas of my face that will typically move around. Next I'm going in with this shade here, and I'm just going to add some cheekbones and just contour around the edges of my face. And then I'm going to kind of go around the edges of the contour using this slightly darker peach shade in the palette. And I'm just going to really roughly go around it like this. And I find that this just kind of meshes the contour with the rest of my face and just creates a smoother transition because I am so pale. Like, it just stops the whole thing from looking too harsh. So next I'm just taking the Mad About Mauve palette from Obsession, and I'm just going to use this second shade along, which is very similar to the eyeshadow that I have. And I just think by using a mauve blush that's similar to the mauve that I'm wearing on my eyes, it will really kind of bring the whole look together. I'm also going to highlight using the Technic Get Gorgeous highlighting powder. I'm going to go on the tops of my cheeks and above the brow, as well as down my nose, and just underneath the contour as well. I'm also going to get a smaller brush and just go underneath my brow bone, right here. I'm going to go back in with the Iconic Free palette, and I'm just taking that taupey shade again, and I'm going to go right underneath my eyes. I'm just going to put that same highlighter on my eyes now, so I'm just using this really small brush and I'm just going in the inner corners, and I'm being very generous with this. I'm even bringing it down here, and I think I'm just going to get that highlight on my finger and just pop some right on the lid as well. And I'm even going to go just in the centre with that small brush again. And I actually feel like I want to just add a little bit more eyeliner, so I'm going back in with the same e.l.f. eyeliner. I know I'm doing a lot of touch-ups to the eyes, but this is kind of how I do my normal makeup as well, actually. I usually have something in mind, and then I try it out, and then I want to change it. And then I'm just going to go around that brown eyeliner. Okay, I finally feel like the eyes have kind of come together now. This has definitely been one of those looks where I didn't really know if it was going to work until right up at the end. But I'm just going to finish it off now using some of the AOA Skinny Mascara, and that's just going to go on my bottom lashes. And then I'm just going to open my eyes up a little bit using this Primark Kohl eyeliner pencil, and this is in the shade Wide Awake. I always like forget to do the waterline, but sometimes it's these little details that can really finish off a look. And finally we are onto the lips. I don't really want to do too much to my lips. I want the focus to really be on the eyes for this look, and so I'm just going to use a lipstick. This is from NYX. It's their creamy round lipstick in the shade Talia. And I'm just setting everything in place with the Obsession Fit Fix makeup spray. Gosh, that's a tongue twister. And here it is. Here is my finished festive kind of makeup look. I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This is going to be my last video this year just because I've got a lot of stuff on over Christmas. I'm going to be traveling a bit and I just unfortunately won't have the time to film anything. But I will see you very soon in January next year. I remember last year I said in December that I was going to go on a break for a few weeks, and I was planning to come back in January, but then I ended up having a bit of a mental breakdown and didn't come back until, I don't know, March. But yeah, I'm going to try really hard not to do that again this year. I hope you all have a wonderful festive season, whatever you're celebrating, and a happy new year, and I will see you all in 2019. Bye!